Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going over my top 5 insane ships. These are 5 ships that have one or two or several characteristics about them that are just over the top and goofy and insane. Many of these ships have several characteristics about them that are just pretty crazy, and you really wouldn't have been, able to foresee these types of ships being in the game, I would say even like 3 years ago. The game has, of course, taken a pretty harsh turn to the more outlandish side of naval design here in recent years, and these ships fully embrace it. So that is what we are going over in this week's top 5 video. But last week on Friday, I uploaded my sequel to the Ultimate World Warships strategy tier list, and I don't know if YouTube just didn't like me or whatever, but that video dramatically underperformed. So if you didn't get notified about it, it's up. Check it out. Link will be up here on screen. I'll put a link to it in the comments down below as well. I don't know, just a little weird, the ultimate tier list videos, you guys seem to really enjoy that with the first ultimate strategy tier list video, the ultimate battleships tier list video as well, and even the ultimate cruiser tier list video did rather well. And I don't know, it seems a little weird that, the 4th installment in that series didn't even get 10,000 views over the weekend. But yeah, a lot of you guys that did see it messaged me saying, hey, look, I didn't get a notification about it, it wasn't in my feed. So YouTube's being YouTube, so if you would like to check that out, link to that again on screen or in the comments down below. But let's go ahead and get into today's video. If you do find yourself enjoying it, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz helps out appease the algorithm overlords. Anyway, number 5 is the tier 10 French cruiser, the Marseille. And it is crazy that this is a ship that's in a cruiser slot and didn't get shoehorned into a battleship slot with some improved armor. But the Marseille is, man, this ship came out and immediately I loved it, and it has still done very well. I mean, of course, it hasn't been out for that long, right? But the Marseille is an absolutely cracked cruiser when it comes to its maneuverability and its firepower. It is basically a super Dunkirk, if you will. She has 9 330mm guns in 3 turrets in front of her superstructure. Now, she is not meant to sit there and bow tank like a tank destroyer from World of Tanks, but rather you're supposed to use her speed and her maneuverability to your advantage, and she is very, very, very fast when you have her engine boost going. It's the French thing, right? So you got a fast cruiser here with 9 330mm guns, which just those two combinations right there would of course be a winner, right? Because the French AP, if you've never played the Dunkirk or the Strasbourg, sure, the guns are tiny for their tier, then those are 2 battleships, right? But because of the high velocity of the French AP round, they can hit above their weight class. They have great penetration. So when you come up against targets that you think you might not be able to penetrate, like another battleship, man, the Dunkirk and the Strasbourg, they hit well above their weight class, right? And they just chunk the ever-living crap out of nice, juicy targets. And the French AP is like that, of course, up and down the battleship line, even the main cruiser line, too. But when you get to this caliber of gun, 330mm guns, man, even battleships just suffer when you catch them broadside from one salvo, right? You can easily chunk a battleship for like 13, 14, 15k without citadeling him. But then you do get, on top of that, the reload booster, where you can get a couple of quick follow-up salvos if you time your reload booster consumable correctly. It cuts the reload time down by 50%. And man, if you catch someone broadside, you got all your barrels on them, you let that reload booster crank after you fire your first salvo, you can get 2 quick follow-up salvos, maybe you can squeeze a 3rd one in there if you got adrenaline rush and you're at super low HP, and you are just going to deliver a lot of pain to whatever poor man sailed broadside to you. So you have that type of firepower on a hull that is extremely quick and maneuverable. Actually, it's not that maneuverable. It's pretty quick, right? It does take a second to turn, but when you are in a ship that's as fast as this one, you got the engine boost, you can get in and out of situations quite quickly. Conversely, too, you can also run down a flank very quickly. If you see an opening, you can go for it. She also has hydro as well, and it's one of the few cruisers that can keep up with the U4501 when you're trying to keep your hydro on that ship, right? And then you even have decent AP on top of that as well. So if you can't pin them with your AP, swap one over to your HE. And just like with the AP, if the opportunity arises where you set 1 or 2 fires on an enemy ship, they damage con it, and you're just sitting there like, oh, great, thanks for doing that, buddy. Pop your reload booster and get another salvo or 2 of HE in their face. Now you got a couple of permafires on their ship. And of course, when you're having to deal with DDs or all, that HE with the reload booster is fantastic as well. All in all, it's a very great cruiser. The speed does get you into trouble if you're not used to a ship this fast, that's this large, right? You don't want to be the first one spotted, right? Because you are a big ship. And thankfully, because of her speed, as it can get you into trouble, it can get you out of it if you do need to run on out of there. But yes, a fantastic cruiser, crazy couple abilities there with the reload booster and these guns and the speed. But yes, one I would highly recommend you guys grind up to. Super popular cruiser already there. Alright, going down to number 4, we have a ship mentioned in the previous ships section, and that is the U-450. We couldn't talk about insane ships without talking about the submarine that can almost break 40 knots submerged. So yeah, the 4501. Believe it or not, this ship was faster in testing. And of course, if you can dig up Wargaming's problematic tweets from back in the day, you can see the 4501's original version, at least the version that was announced to us, with a top speed of, I believe it was 42 or 43 knots submerged. That is insane. And, they have cranked it down a little bit in terms of speed. It can only go like 37.7 knots, so almost 40 knots, so almost 38 knots underwater. So yeah, that's pretty quick. There's several destroyers you can outrun with the 4501. Now, for the 4501, that is, of course, absolutely insane. But she gets a heal on top of that as well. That's right, fellas, a submarine with a heal. Now, there's a couple of big caveats to the 4501. First off, it does get a heal, but it barely has any HP. It's got, I believe, 14,000 HP at tier 10, which is nothing at all, right? So it is a rather frail ship. And the heal, if you do want to use it, you have to surface to use it. You can't sit underwater and heal up and, be fine and heal your way through depth charge attacks. So they were wise enough to do that. Another thing, too, if you do, sneeze on the A or D key when you are underwater, you're going 20 knots again with the 4501. It bleeds speed so bad. It's got to have one of the worst speed bleed rates out of the game, just all in all. Literally, you just tap A and you're literally going 21, 22 knots with a 4501 underwater. But straight line speed, it is insane. It's no problem to just hammer down and just zip on out of the ASW blast radius of the 4501. And unless you're really hard spotted by either submarine surveillance or someone sailing over you with hydro, it is rather difficult to try and guesstimate, okay, this guy's going 37 knots. Whereabouts should I drop my ASW? You can really just floor it, and it'll get you out of that situation all in all. The torpedoes really aren't that powerful. You only get the homing torpedoes. You do not get the dummy-guided torpedoes, so you don't have any type of ability to really, surface and shotgun and go on about your merry way with the 4501, because you don't really have the torpedo firepower to do that. And when you do surface, you're only going 20 knots as well, so you're ungodly slow at the surface. But just the speed that the 451 has underwater is absolutely absurd, so it does very much earn a spot on this list. And if you are good at submarines, the 4501 is a pretty terrifying ship to use against your enemies. But yes, there's a couple of caveats to it, but again, that underwater speed is so absurd. So number 4 for the 4501. And going down to number 3, we have the tier 10 American battle cruiser battleship, the Rhode Island. I did wind up, I guess, accidentally getting this. I wanted to get to the camouflage for the Essex, because the camouflage is for the American carriers that or available in the early access event right now do have the hull numbers and the deck numbers on them, and I like when I can put a historic camo on my tech line ship and make it look like, the ship it's supposed to be. So yeah, I wanted to get the whole number on the S6 and such, and turns out I bought 3 of the bundles trying to get the Rhode Island early on. I said I wasn't going to buy any more until I decided I wanted the camouflage for the Essex, and then in the 4th bundle there was a Rhode Island. So yeah, that happened. But anyway, the Rhode Island, yeah, this thing's pretty nuts. I'm not exactly sure you'd want to call it a Mega Florida because it doesn't really play the same, but it's got the 12, 14-inch guns. They gave it secondaries, they gave it an engine boost, and they gave it radar. That's right. We have another American battleship with the radar consumable. And, yeah, this thing is nuts. It can go almost 40 knots with the engine. I think it can go 40 knots, actually, with the engine boost. Active, definitely if you put brisk on it, right? And you've got those 14-inch guns, which, yeah, sure, those are very small by Tier 10 battleship standards, and they aren't overly accurate either. But if you play this thing like a very, very big cruiser, especially when you got that engine boost going, this thing is quite good. And then you couple that together with the secondaries, which are pretty nice as well. And when you can push in, you're just murdering destroyers with the secondaries, with the 12, 14-inch guns with HE loaded, and then you've got the radar to bully them out of smoke. Same thing with cruisers too, right? You want to push in, there's light cruisers that are hiding from you, pop your radar, now you got them spotted, and introduce them to your 12, 14-inch guns, right? And this thing's just absurd. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting it right now because you have to gamble to get it. It's going to come out for, whatever resource, probably in the next 5-6 months, right? This thing screams like Research Bureau ship, maybe, but, we got another one coming for that pretty soon. Well, we had the Sicilia just get released to that, so probably like Cole, I would imagine. But yeah, no, this ship's pretty just absolutely bonkers, right? I mean, all that together, a ship that can go 40 knots, radar, secondaries, engine boost. It's just a ton of gimmicks bolted together, and for the time being, it works quite well. And it's just really strange that the Americans are getting a lot of battle cruisers that they didn't really make in real life, and the U.S. Navy will probably cease to exist before they ever admit to building or wanting to build battle cruisers, right? But anyway, yes, an absolutely absurd ship, just a bunch of insanity bolted together onto one platform, and one that, again, don't gamble for it right now, but in the future, I would definitely recommend to pick it up once it gets released in a normal manner. So that brings us down to number 2, which is the Tier 10 Tech Line British battlecruiser, the St. Vincent. The St. Vinny is, man, with a standard build, the ship's already pretty nuts. You get 9 457mm guns with pretty darn good HE. It's not quite to the same level as the full-on British BBHE, but it's very close, right? And of course, just 9 457s with AP. That's a lot of firepower to have, even at Tier 10, right? And you have that on a hull that's very fast, very nimble. It is a battlecruiser hull, right? So she doesn't have 32mm of armor, so you are going to get overmatched by most of the battleships that you'll run into at Tier 10. But you get an engine boost out of it as well, on top of a super heal as well. Now, it's not a Conqueror super heal. It won't reprint 75% of the ship's HP, but it will reprint along the lines of like 50-ish% of the ship's HP. And on top of that, too, you get the hull torpedoes that do 30k alpha per torpedo. Now, you only get 2 of them in the bow, but I mean, hey, that's, one very powerful torpedo right there. So just like all that by itself normally is pretty nuts with like a standard tank build or a standard main battery build for the St. Vinny. But then, upon the reworking of some commander skills, you can build into taking, Furious now, where you get a 10% bonus for the first fire that's set on your ship, and then a 5% bonus for every fire subsequently set on your ship to your reload time. And it works for floatings as well. If you take the reload module for the St. Vincent, and this is something that we covered in Friday's Ultimate Warship Strategy video, that you can get this reload into the teens very, very quickly. Now you might be thinking, Sealord, well, Furious, for those bonuses to be applied to your reload time, you have to be on fire. Well, the St. Vincent doesn't really care about fires too much because you have that super heal. And she's fast enough to where if you are in a sticky situation, you can pop the engine boost and then just get out of it too. And the concealment, well, they are nerfing the concealment here pretty recent. Here, I think either in this update or in the next update. It's still like 12-ish kilometers if you go for like the module and the commander skill too, so it's still pretty stealthy either way, even after they decide to nerf her. But the main thing is you have that super heal, where you can just abuse Adrenaline Rush, abuse Furious, and get like an 18-19 second reload time, which is ridiculous for a ship with guns this large, right? So you can just be absolutely showering the enemy with your 18-inch AP or your 18-inch HE if you really want to burn them down, right? So it's just absurd what you can do with this ship. And it can do this fairly comfortably. You just have to be very, of course, mindful of your surroundings, where your HP's at, and how much more cooldown time you've got on your heal, right? So again, just an insane ship that you can now take to the next level with the recent commander skill changes. Just insanity. And now we come down to number 1. A ship which somehow hasn't really been knocked from the insane, the king of the insanity spot, if you will, and that is the Tier 10 British battlecruiser, the Incomparable. The Incomparable truly is incomparable to any other ships in the game because it just has a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense, but we just roll with it anyway. So for starters, this is a battle cruiser with 20-inch guns, 6 20-inch guns. Yeah, that's large and in charge, right? And first off, just look at the turrets. They're so absurdly large for this ship, right? It's a battle cruiser, so it's skinny and very, very, very long, as you can tell. But these turrets are just so chunky, right? They just look so goofy. Anyway, so you get 20-inch guns, which is fantastic, right? And then you still get torpedoes. You get deck-mounted torpedoes that you can single launch or launch all together. You get a 3-kilometer hydro, engine boost, and of course a super heal. As it is a battle cruiser, it doesn't really have battleship levels of armor, but she's fast. She's got 20-inch guns. You got hydro, you got torpedoes. You can really get in there with the Incomparable, and you can get in there because it's got a 10.6 kilometer detection range. This is one of the longest ships in the game, fellas, and you can sneak up on a cruiser from 10 kilometers. And you have no idea you're there until you fire. Yeah, that's that's so stupid. So many times I've been able to just walk up to a broadside light or heavy cruiser, and it's just like, oh, there's a ship armed with 20-inch guns 11 kilometers from me. Guess I'll die. Granted, with light cruisers, you do overpin them a lot, but you only need 1 or 2 shells to Citadel a light cruiser to really ruin its day, right? So it's just so absurd. And yeah, you can play this thing as a great ship for running down a flank, staying undetected, and then again, popping up 10.6 kilometers away from the enemy ships. Conversely, too, you still have 20-inch guns, right? So, of course, the ship's more than workable at medium and long ranges, and that super heal does allow you to, of course, well, first off, of course, you do barely have any HP in the ship by Tier 10 battleship standards on top of the no armor, so, of course, the super heal is kind of needed, but it also means when you do get into those situations, like, the ship still does have armor, right? If you do find yourself suddenly very close range with another battleship or battle cruiser, you still have that super heal up your sleeve, so, you can generally survive for a salvo or two if they surprise you, unless they get your flat broadside, in which you're just dead at that point, right? But I can generally push through that very, very unfortunate punch to your Citadel with that super heal. And again, you got torpedoes, you got 20-inch guns, you can make it happen one way or another with the Incomparable. Now, she is a still ship, so of course she's a bit of a slog to get to, but man, if you want just an insane ship, a goofy ship, and a hands-down fun ship, the Incomparable is, the one to definitely go for, right? it's just such a goofy ship. It's insane. It's fun. It's really not that competitive, honestly. Too, like, again, it doesn't have any armor. You're not going to be finding this thing in clan battles a whole lot unless someone's doing a meme division or like some super like 5D level tactics, right? Like they're playing 5 or 6D chess with your team. But yeah, it's not like busted or anything in my opinion. Just an insane ship, a goofy ship, and a fun ship. And that is the Incomparable, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, if you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. On our way to 75,000 subs, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.